final timeout. And this is the final play of the game here, Henny. Picked off by Drew Colby.
Tad late, this ball was up for grabs, would have tied the game.
The Miami Dolphins took on the New York Jets on Sunday Night Football, and what a game it was. Although the Dolphins did lose 31-23, it was a dogfight going back and forth. There were a lot of positives for the Dolphins, even though they lost, including Chad Henne stepping up and the offense finally getting in sync. That was really important for them, though kind of at the cost of the defense. They didn't play their best, and up against a potent Jets offense, I mean, they struggled, but there were some positives. But I think what you can take out of this, yes, it was a division loss, but this is a great Jets team, and they're Super Bowl caliber according to some. So if the Dolphins can come that close, then they must be Super Bowl caliber as well. But their offense has stepped up immensely since the first 2 weeks, and that is a great positive to take out of this. This is the third game that the Dolphins have partaken against the Jets where the win has come down to the final minutes. That's a very positive step for the Dolphins. A couple years ago, they were struggling. They were going nowhere. But, I mean, this season, everything's just kind of meshing well. And to be able to compete with the Jets on this level after there's very, very much concern about their offense, it says a lot. When they play New England next week, that'll be an even bigger test, but more about that later. Everyone thought it would be the defense that carried the Dolphins over the Jets, when actually it was Chad Henne and the offense that stepped up, and that's very reassuring. Chad Henne is definitely maturing as a quarterback. After the first couple of weeks when they wouldn't let him go deep or let him attack, opposing secondaries downfield, they let him loose, and he was on fire. In the beginning of the game, it seemed like the Dolphins were more successful on third down than on first and second. There were a lot of third and longs, and Chad Henne stood strong in the pocket and completed those throws. Brandon Marshall finally had his breakout game of the season, catching 10 receptions for 166 yards. Finally, we're getting to see the Dolphins use Marshall to his strengths. They're letting him go downfield. They're letting him go up and get the ball, letting him beat out defenders and make these great plays. While Brandon Marshall had an outstanding night, it was other receivers like Devon Best, Brian Hartline, and Anthony Fasano, the tight end. Best caught 6 passes for 86 yards. Brian Hartline caught 5 passes for 84 yards. Anthony Fasano had 3 catches for 14 yards, including a 3-yard touchdown pass from Chad Henne. They really stepped up for the Dolphins offense. Marshall was getting a lot of, double teams, and they were covering him more. They were more focused on Brant Marshall that they didn't seem to notice the other Dolphins receivers. Like Devon Best had a great game. He made some outstanding catches on the sideline. On the sideline, they're beautiful. For a rookie, he looks very polished for a rookie. He made some great plays that really put them in position to win. While Chad Henne and the receivers had a great night, it was actually the Dolphins' running game that struggled. Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams, it just wasn't their night. Ricky Williams actually had 2 fumbles, which luckily he recovered. But their run game just couldn't get going against the Jets. And when Chad Henne passes for over 300 yards, I think it was about 360-something, there's something wrong. That means your run game's not working. That means your offense is one-dimensional. And going up against New England next week, they're going to have to fix that. But the run game, it's normally consistent. And it surprised me that they were... Actually, it didn't really surprise me. I think they were just trying to keep up with the Jets. The Jets were pretty much the same thing. They were a passing offense. They ran the ball occasionally, but they actually ran it better than the Dolphins did. Okay, I know the Dolphins reinvented the Wildcat and everything, but it was not working Sunday night. They tried it several times. It didn't work. Their run game was actually struggling, so I was surprised that it wasn't really inventive either. They just tried to kind of run up the middle with it, and I would have I expected a little bit more against the Jets. Maybe have Ronnie Brown throw it down the field or something, or to make it inventive, make it something that the Jets haven't seen before or weren't expecting. The Jets looked like they were expecting that completely. Nothing against the Wildcat. It just wasn't working this week. I think next week against New England would be a great place to use it. Because against New England, you're going to have to not only perform consistently on offense, both offense and defense and special teams, but you're going to have to do the little things that are going to separate you on offense when you have a guy like Tom Brady, a quarterback, opposite. So I think the Wildcat will actually, if they can get it to work next week against New England, make it more inventive, make it creative, make it unpredictable, I think it'd have a great place against New England next Monday night. The big things to take out of this game is how far the offense has come. They struggled in the first two games, and against the Jets, they finally looked like the offense that Miami had envisioned in the offseason when they meant to go sign Brandon Marshall back in training camp, and this is what they're focusing on. And I think for the first time, they feel confident in their offense. And it's going to be interesting to see how well the offense will do as the season goes on, including next week, a pivotal game against New England. While the defense struggled overall, Carlos Dansby made quite a name for himself. He was attacking Sanchez. He was all over the field making plays. It's very reassuring to see that the defense didn't completely come apart, but you could see that Sanchez and the Jets offense were, exploited, and they had studied film over the previous 2 weeks for the Dolphins to see where is that weakness in their defense, because Minnesota didn't find it and Buffalo didn't find it. So that's what they were looking for all week, and they found it. They were able to exploit their secondary, and before it was the defensive line that was successful. The defensive line was able to pressure the quarterback and stop the run game, so you didn't really get to see the vulnerability in the secondary. Perhaps the most deafening blow for the Dolphins and on defense was after the Dolphins offense had driven down the field and scored a touchdown. Mark Sanchez connected with Braylon Edwards for a 67-yard touchdown. That was not only a momentum changer, but a game changer as well. Edwards was arrested earlier in the week for a DUI, and Rex Ryan, the coach of the Jets, was talking about benching him for the first quarter, and we didn't know if it was for the first play of the quarter, but he said he would not start this football game. But he came in the second quarter, and wouldn't you know it, he ends up being a playmaker for the Jets. And that would ultimately be one of the deciding scores. The Dolphins lost by 8, a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And that's one of the touchdowns that that's a play the Dolphins defense definitely would like back. This rivalry has grown even more heated since last year the Dolphins swept the Jets, and this year Jason Taylor is with the Jets, and you could hear it. You could hear some boos when Taylor was there, and actually Taylor had on the Dolphins' first offensive drive, he sacked Henne, and it would just kind of look like a load off the shoulder. He's like, okay, I got this, I can go against my former team. And he was kind of speaking to the crowd, and they weren't having much of it. He did not disappoint. He actually had a great game against the Dolphins. I mean, what else are you gonna expect from Jason Taylor? The key going into the Monday night's game against the Patriots for the Dolphins defense is to pressure Tom Brady. It's not an easy thing to do, but if you can rattle him and force him to make errant throws, or to force him to kind of pull back and maybe go to the run game more, or to take away his deep options like Randy Moss or Wes Welker, it's gonna slow New England's offense down a bit, and that will be the key for the Dolphins defense. Keys for the Dolphins offense, they're going to need to establish the run early. Get Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams comfortable over there. Make some lanes for them, get them comfortable. Get the run game going, and then turn to Henne in the passing game and look to Bess and Marshall and Fasano and Hartline. Exploit New England's secondary. This division is not only one of the toughest in the AFC, but it is considered one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. My prediction, I am going to go with the Patriots. But I see this game being very close, just like the Jets game. These are two very good teams. I see New England edging out the Dolphins 27-24. This has been Alyssa with Dolphins Dish, saying, is it Monday yet?